I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Lew Bryson, author of multiple books about beer and spirits, including Tasting Whiskey, Pennsylvania Breweries, and New York Breweries. Lew, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Doing great. You ready to get started?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Rewrite. Rewrite. Make it more interesting. Make it shorter. Make it clearer. None of my books were really very good in the first draft. I think none of the advice about publishing matters unless you have a great manuscript. So just keep polishing.
Just keeping on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been an editor as well. I edited a magazine for almost 20 years, and I got to tell you, you can always make it shorter, and usually when you make it shorter, it's better.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Finding the right publisher. You need to find someone who's going to understand your project and who will then edit and illustrate it and support it to support your vision. The right publisher is going to have the right editor, and together you will make a better book.
And let's talk about marketing. Please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that worked well.
I made partners of the people who most wanted and needed my book. I mean, for instance, my publisher helped me. They set up signings for my book, Tasting Whiskey, at bookstores and book fairs, which was great. I set up signings at bars, liquor stores, whiskey festivals, and distilleries. It was like shooting fish in a barrel.
I bet it was. How easy was it to get those set up?
Not that bad. I mean, to be honest, at this point, distilleries were still pretty happy that anybody had written about them. I don't know if that's still true. But yeah, I mean, most of the time people are pretty up for that. Especially the more niche it is, the better. You know, like, I mean, if you have a knitting book, go to a wool festival.
So I think what you're saying is know your target market and know your avatar.
Right. Know who you are, know what your book is.
That is great advice. Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
You know, the funny thing is, before I was a writer, I was a librarian, and before that, I was a voracious reader. I have over 5,000 books in my house. I don't really have a favorite, but what I learned from that is that the books that I keep going back to are not always the ones with the most facts. They're the ones that are written well. Information is always more useful to the reader if it's presented in a clear and engaging style. And that's what I've learned from having a big collection of books. We're actually remodeling an old house, and one of the rooms is going to be my library, and I'm already planning out where to put everything.
So in regards to your favorite book, I am going to challenge you a little bit on here. Just tell me, what would you consider one of your favorite books? Just something that really stand out. I know before the podcast we were talking about Roosevelt. So just something that you could share from one of your favorite books and the number one thing that you learned from it.
Wow. Well, I would say, you know, one of the books, as I said, I keep going back to, you know, it's Tolkien, the Fellowship of the Ring, the Lord of the Rings series. I've read that series probably 12 times over the course of my life. The man knew his material. He knew myth. He knew languages, and it comes through in the book. And yet, you never really thinking that he's teaching you about legends and myth and how languages work because you're so involved in the story.
That is a great point, and thank you for sharing that, because I know it's difficult. When you have 5,000 books, it is hard to narrow it down. Well, and I know we talked about this one prior to the show, too, and that is about your favorite quote. So what is your favorite quote, and why is it your favorite quote?
It's what they call the Teddy Roosevelt "Man in the Arena" quote. I'll just use part of it because it's actually a whole paragraph. But he says, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. But the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place will never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." I to be honest, that's in one of my favorite brew pubs, Victory Brewing out in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. That's where I first saw the quote. But it means a lot to a writer because anybody can rip your book. Anybody can criticize it. Not many people actually write books. It's tough. It's not easy. If it was, everyone would do it. So, remember, you're the man in the arena, the woman in the arena, the person in the arena. You're the one doing the work. Don't worry about the critics.
I think that actually might be my favorite quote yet on this show. That was awesome.
I love that one.
Well, Lew, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show today. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, my name is my brand. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as @Lew Bryson, LEWBRYSON, and I write regularly for the Daily Beast. They have a food and drink section called Half Full, and I write for them pretty regularly.
All right, Lew. Well, again, thank you for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Pleasure, Paul. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.